I'm looking at this poster from Children of the Corn. The hat looks like Saturn and also the Pope's chapeau. There's a boy with a similar hat. That should tell you where this is going. There's a book called The Saturn Myth. To me, this proves the film is about Cronus. The strip under the crescent is colored grey on the left. His cross is made from corn husks, which means they're going to burn it. A burnt offering is called Holocaust. The hexagon of Saturn can form a cube of Mecca or a Star of David. It continues because if you unfold a cube into a flat shape, you form a cross with 6 segments. Corn dollies or corn mothers are a form of straw work made as part of harvest customs of Europe before mechanization. Before Christianization and traditional pagan European culture, it was believed the spirit of the corn lived amongst the crop and that the harvest made it effectively homeless. Among the customs attached to the last sheaf of the harvest were hollow shapes fashioned from the last sheaf of wheat or other cereal crops. The corn spirit would then spend the winter in this home until the corn dolly was plowed into the first furrow of the new season. Many more customs are instanced by Phrasia. For example, the term old woman was in use for such corn dolls amongst the Germanic pagans of Flanders in the 7th century, where Saint Eligius discouraged them from their old practices. Do not make vitulas, little figures of the old women, little deer or ioticos, or set tables for the house elf Puck at night, or exchange New Year's gifts or supply superfluous drinks. In East Prussia, at the rye or wheat harvest, the reapers call out to the woman who binds the last sheaf, "You are getting the old grandmother." In Scotland, when the last corn was cut after Hallowmas, the female figure made out of it was sometimes called the Carlin or Carleen, that is, the old woman. George Carlin, the old woman. In the 4th century AD, Plato referred to the Carthaginians' penchant for sacrificing their sons. Later, Cleitachos, a 3rd century Greek writer, gave a graphic description of the practice. Out of reverence for Cronus, the Greek equivalent of Baal Hammon, the Phoenicians, and especially the Carthaginians, when they seek to obtain some great favor, vow one of their children, burning it as a sacrifice to the deity if they are especially eager to gain success. At the foot of the effigy, those could be the souls of children that were sacrificed to Saturn, aka Cronus, who eats children, or eats their souls. From the name Cronus, you can find the word corn. In folk magic and witchcraft, a puppet, also known as puppet muppet or pippy, is a doll made to represent a person for casting spells on that person or to aid that person through magic. These dolls may be fashioned from such materials as carved fruit, grain, or corn shafts. A fruit, paper, wax, a potato, clay, branches, or cloth stuffed with herbs with the intent that any actions performed upon the effigy will be transferred to the subject based on sympathetic magic. The word puppet is an older spelling of puppet from the Middle English puppe, meaning a small child or doll. Similar dolls relating to puppets: corn dolly, corn husk doll, voodoo doll, kachina doll, witch bottle. The soulless children of the corn are children of Cronus, aka corn puppets. This is a corn puppet. The plaits and black hat alludes to a certain group of people, formerly known as Edomites, now calling themselves Jews. The sickle symbolizes Saturn, who's also Rempha, Moloch, and Huon. Saturn is the god of harvest. It's why she's in a cornfield. She's wearing black, which is Saturn's color, and she's dressed like a Jew because the god of the Jews is Saturn. In alchemy, this is called rebus. When the male and female combine, they create the hermaphrodite child. The symbol for Mercury is on the rebus. Mercury has a serpent wand called caduceus. That's why it's on Baphomet, because Baphomet is the hermaphrodite child of the sun and moon. Did you notice Baphomet sitting on a black cube? That's a symbol of Saturn. Capricorn is a goat fish. Fish and snakes are interchangeable. The two snakes are Hermes' wand, and the scales on Baphomet is the Kundalini serpent. It has many names: Azoth in alchemy, Kundalini in yoga. Azoth is the Kundalini bird, although here they use it as a peacock because the peacock is sacred to Venus. The pentagram of Venus is on his head, and he's half goat. Saturn and Venus fused and created him. He has breasts and a willy, meaning he's an androgyne. And now we have certain people that wear black boxes on their heads. Underlying the well-known link between Saturday, Shabbat in Hebrew, and Saturn, Shabtai in Hebrew, is the reference to Saturn as the planet in charge of the Jews. Greek and Arab astrology, however, considered Saturn to be the most malignant of the 7 planets, and thus the Jews, astrologically governed by Saturn, were considered to be contaminated by the planet's wicked nature. That's why they transgender. I've tried to explain it in the past. Perhaps I've not explained it in a way that people can grasp. The Edomite Jews are astrologically connected to Saturn. So far, I haven't found out why that is. It could come from a pre-Babylonian culture that we haven't been told about, but it is quite clear that they are connected to Saturn and the constellation Capricorn, the goatfish. Pink, yellow, blue, and white. That's the soul trap Trinacria. They've drawn the hexagram around him, so it's connected to Saturn, meaning this child was sacrificed to him. It's the same reason Katie has a cube on his head. Look at the shoes. Pink, yellow, and blue. The skirt is white fragments because it means his mind was shattered. When Saturn became a sun, it sent out huge discharges of mass and energy. The mass discharge became the rings of Saturn, and at certain parts of the day, it had the appearance of a crescent. In the picture above, you can see Venus at the center point of Saturn. The energy discharge extended all the way to Earth, forming a stairway to heaven, Jacob's ladder. The Devil Tarot card is an androgyne. Sacred geometry, 5 elements. Hexahedron is Earth. Hex, an evil spell or a curse. Compare the alchemical devil and the traditional devil. On both pictures, they are bound. The male and female are chained to Saturn's cube. In essence, that's what transgendering does to you. It chains you to this earth-hell realm. El is the god of Israel. The Israelites did what was evil in the sight of the Lord, forgetting the Lord their God, and worshipping the Baals and the Asherahs. Asherah was one of the chief deities of the ancient world. She was the wife of the supreme god El and the mother of Baal. In the scriptures, the Hebrew word for Asherah is used both for the goddess herself and for the poles erected in her honor. In Judges 6, Gideon was called to tear down the altar to Baal and to cut down the Asherah that is beside it. They said to cut down the altar to Baal and the Asherah that is beside it. Why? Venus is called the bride of Saturn because when Saturn was a sun, Venus was next to Saturn. Baal is Saturn, Asherah is Venus. Solar eclipse of 462, the origin of Tanit's cult. We're going back to the Saturn myth. On the right is a mold of Asherah. The rays around her head is from Venus at the center. Her legs are long and close together. That represents the strip under the crescent. As for the symbol of Tanit, the head is the planet Venus. The crescent is from Saturn. The runway is the triangular body. Here we have a scene from Beyoncé's Formation. Can you see what they've done? Same plaits, same hat, black clothing. This is what the Orthodox Edomites wear. Saturn is the god of harvest. They put the child in a cornfield because it indicates harvesting souls. This is Cain from Poltergeist, same as Cain from the Bible. Black satin hat. He's standing in front of roses because that is Ishtar's symbol. Ishtar is Venus or Tanit or Asherah. He's stalking Carol Ann because he wants to eat her light. That's Saturn devouring children's souls. Then Beyoncé gives you 2 fingers. Middle finger means the awakened spine. Why? Because the middle finger is governed by Saturn. He wears red lipstick and red fingernail polish. The first chakra is the Saturn chakra. It's colored red and is located at the base of the spine. Take a look at this picture. He has candles above his head because he's illuminated. Just like Baphomet, the Kundalini, sodomite goat. Why is Beyoncé swinging his hair with 2 fingers? He's showing us that he's a transgendered Saturnian Edomite. The devil or sabbatic goat. Have a look at the bloke in the red hat. Illuminati card game. Because when you're programming the goyim, profane sheep, via engineered agitation, it really helps if they don't know it's all a satanic Jew Masonic fix. Trayvon Martin's father is a Grand Master Mason. Fraternal orders, black man with a red fez. All of them are involved in Freemasonry. The two in the back might be new initiates. His hat is different from Beyoncé's. That represents Prince Hall Freemasonry. Pointed hats have been a distinctive item of headgear of a wide range of cultures throughout history. The conical hat is known to have existed as early as the Bronze Age in Middle East, Eurasia, and Central Europe. Conical hats were recorded in ancient Egypt, especially when depicting Osiris and pharaohs who emulated Osiris's iconography. The Jewish hat was often white or yellow, worn by Jews in medieval Europe and some of the Islamic world. That's the related picture shown. His hat looks a bit like a spinning top. This older picture says Judah, meaning Jews. Is that what they're telling me? The Tin Man was a Jew. I remember the original Tin Man got lead poisoning from paint, and lead is ruled by Saturn. But when I looked up the story recently, now it says he had a reaction to aluminium dust. So the aluminium tinfoil hats of conspiracy nutters are actually the hats of medieval Jews? Is that supposed to be funny? The Phrygian cap is a soft cap with the top pulled forward, associated in antiquity with the inhabitants of Phrygia, a region of central Anatolia, and in modern times with Smurfs. These blue entities are called Smurfs. They live in mushroom houses, so I guess they're fairies. I can see the red hat is identical to theirs. Photo Roman statue of Attis. Sibyl is an Anatolian mother goddess. She is Phrygia's only known goddess and was probably its national deity. Uniquely in Greek religion, she had a eunuch mendicant priesthood. Many of her Greek cults included rites to a divine Phrygian castrate shepherd consort, Attis, who was probably a Greek invention. The Smurf hat is associated with Phrygians. Sibyl is a Phrygian goddess. Her consort, Attis, is a castrated shepherd. The Smurfs wear trousers but no shirt. Does that mean Smurfette is Sibyl, and the Smurfs are her castrated priests? They wear tight trousers. There's no bulge. You have one Smurf that's always fawning over her, but it's not sexual, it's more like adoration. And she seems to be like a mother to them. Then you have Papa Smurf, who's the oldest, and the only one in red. Castrated males don't grow beards or white hair, so he could be Father Time, also known as Saturn. North Syria priest king or deity with horned crown. You know what I thought when I saw this? Coneheads, these weird aliens from some planet. Weird teeth and tongue, but for some reason you don't see it when they're speaking. They insert these things into our current culture, but that is current culture. They put a facade on it to make it seem new, but it's not. In the comments, someone had mentioned Pope Boniface, so I looked him up, and he has the pointed hat. The Hittite priest king has a pointed hat, and the Pope just so happens to have a similar hat. Vishnu incarnated as a fish called Matsya. They both have a tall gold crown, and they're doing the same hand sign. Because I told you, the Pope is a Babylonian fish priest. That tells you who they really are. They have the nerve to scream, blasphemous pagans, and they're doing the exact same thing. That's hypocrisy. All the Hindu gods wear metal crowns, so why do these holy men have them as well? The story of creation of humans out of maize. Long, long ago, there were two creator gods, a god and a goddess, who got together in darkness to talk about the creation of our present world. The god suddenly asked, "What materials can we use to create people?" "I know," answered the goddess. "Our friends the jaguar, coyote, parrot, and crow have already found the answer. We'll use corn." The human's flesh was made of white, that's male, and yellow, that's female, corn. The gods ground enough corn to make enough gruel to fill 9 gourds that gave the men muscles, strength, and power. The first men could speak, hear, and see, and had enough feeling in their hands to hold things. They were given intelligence and could see for miles and miles. They could see things both near and far up the sky. They even managed to see awful corners of the earth. In fact, they could see so much that the gods thought about it and said, "Wait a minute, that's no good. We've given these people so much power that they are just like us. We must cloud the vision so they can no longer see all that we see." So they threw a mist over the people's eyes, and the vision blurred as when one breathes on a mirror. The objective of this article is to explore the most important concepts about Venus in Mesoamerica, the planet's relation with rain, maize, and fertility on the one hand, and with war and sacrifice on the other. After summarizing the evidence that suggests the Venus-Rain-Maize associations, including some specific data suggesting a prevalent importance of the evening star in these concepts, possible observational bases are presented, among which the extremes of the evening star and their concomitants with agriculturally relevant seasonal changes in nature must have been particularly important. While the fertility attributes of Venus can be understood in terms of the most fundamental concerns of the agriculturally based Mesoamerican societies, whose subsistence depended to a considerable extent on the vagaries of climatic regime, the planet's association with warfare and sacrifice can be accounted for by religious and political justification of these practices. When you see adverts and actors eating corn, it's a reference to cannibalism. Fine young cannibals, why would you give your band that name? It's not a secret that corn was given as an offering to the gods, and I wonder why they began offering children instead, or maybe corn is a metaphor. Chuckling goat, gut health experts. Capricorn is the goat-fish constellation. Zodiac symbol, sea goat. Ruling planet, Saturn. Tarot card, the devil. Stones, garnet and blue sapphire. Garnet is a red stone, so red and blue would be male and female combined. The test kit has hexagrams on it for some reason. We know Saturn has that underneath of it. Cambridge Genomic Services with the DNA strand. Saturn cube hexagon, DNA thief. Breakout magic cleanser. Yeah, break out the magic, right? They have a rainbow and a bee. Ishtar created the rainbow and placed it in the sky. Sometimes the goddess is also shown as a queen bee. The goat has one white foot and one black foot. That's Venus as the morning and evening star near Baphomet. Chuckling goat, they're laughing at us because they know what their symbols mean. Rainbow goat milk soap. What is a rainbow goat? This. Rainbows and shell bras, which is the birth of Venus, stroke Ishtar, who turns men into women. Fundación Ibunibon, do you see the symbol here? It's the symbol for Vesta. Vesta is the virgin goddess of the hearth, home, and family in Roman religion. She was rarely depicted in human form and was more often represented by the fire of her temple in the Forum Romanum. Entry to her temple was permitted only to her priestesses, the Vestal virgins, who guarded particular sacred objects within. The virginity was thought essential to Rome's survival. If found guilty of unchastity, they were buried or entombed alive. Such was Vesta's importance to Roman religion that following the rise of Christianity, hers was one of the last non-Christian cults still active, and it was forcibly disbanded by the Christian emperor Theodosius I in AD 391. If these supernatural beings didn't exist, they wouldn't continue to use their icons. And now we've got Extinction Rebellion, the Masonic theatre troupe. This plainly informs you it's a Saturn cult. The skull is for death, the hourglass is for time, and what is the time on that clock? It's 2:33. I think they're in Brazil here. Look at the top right. Why is she doing that hand sign? Her leotard reminded me of Cirque du Soleil totem. The frogman's leotard is a bit like hers. The theme is about humanity's evolution. So are they telling me that we all come from frogs? She has a lizard puppet on her hands, or maybe we all came from reptiles. What does this have to do with protesting? On the left, you have a pansy, that's Alice in Wonderland. Next to her could be a phoenix. The third one is the sun, and there's a peacock. Peacocks don't live in the Amazon. This is utterly distasteful. It reminds me of that cult where all the members took their own lives, and they're using that as protesting. Last time they were baptized in red blood. Now they're drinking black blood. Oil equals death. If oil equals death, then this is an abysmal baptism. This is well beyond Satanism. You see it in popular culture. It's like they're proud to be assimilated. A person infected with the black oil virus uses radiation. Their hands are raised up like they're worshipping. The graduation cap is basically that black cube. They're both wearing black cubes on their heads. It's no different. Their symbols are telling me Earth is controlled by Saturn. I don't think it was originally, but it is now. The Netflix Sandman poster is quite revealing. The Saturn myth, the bright halo around him, his head is Venus, the black column matches the strip on the left, the sands of time in his hand, that means it's about Saturn, and also matches the Stargate. The chevron around the portal, on the left there's symbols around that portal. Tanit is the portal goddess, and I can see that they are alluding to her. There's astrological symbols, and the moon is next to Saturn. Here we have the logo for PlayStation 2. This is called a sine wave. Positive peak, negative peak. It's not an S for station, it's a sine wave. These 4 symbols are on PlayStation controllers. If you move the triangle under the circle, then you have the symbol for Tanit. Many stelae feature the so-called sign of Tanit, perhaps a stylized human body formed by a triangle topped with a circle. It is said the Kaaba at Mecca used to contain fragments of black meteoric stone. Sybil too was once represented by a black stone. So the triangle of Tanit represents the sacred stone. In the second representation of her on the stone from Carthage, above the triangle comes the moon-shaped crescent surrounded by a dot. The moon was once a symbol of the god responsible for the birth of the sun and Venus, for order and time, Nana. The crescent moon symbol placed over the triangle puts these powers for time and measurement under the control of Tanit, making her Stella Maris. I'm sure 1 could be a coincidence, but 2 is not. If you move the cross into the square, you have the Xbox or Saturn's cube. It's always Saturn and Venus together, and their names changed in different cultures. Now we have a simplified sine wave. If you put the plus sign over the arrow and move time closer to space, what does it look like? It's the glyph of Saturn. In all these mythologies, you see a trinity, a father, a mother, and a child. Osiris, Isis, and Horus is Saturn, Venus, and Mercury. Mercury, Venus, and Saturn above the pyramids of Giza. This occurs once every 2,373 years. Mercury, also known as Hermes, is a hermaphrodite. I don't know what year we're really in, but if this is true, it may explain why they're touting their transgendered madness. Either astrologically or alchemically, they are turning people into sexless hermaphrodites. Now, if we're in a timeline, astrologically paired with hermaphroditism, then chemically or alchemically, they seek to be an energetic match to it. The goat means Saturn, and this goat is a hermaphrodite. So if you want to practice that, you're going to trap yourself in this realm. You're in limbo because you can't go up and you can't go down. You're stuck. It's not sacred, it's not divine, it's a soul trap.